You are on the final assignment that you will have to do for science fair other than putting your board together and changing some of the orientation of the documents that you've already done, getting rid of your name, etc., and gluing stuff onto that board. You've done it. You've arrived and you are here. I'm so proud of you. You have done such a great job. So let's talk about a discussion conclusion. Discussion conclusion can be very subjective. What is subjective? Well, that means it can be heavily based on your opinion. Now, you might use some facts to back that up, but still, it is very much so opinion-based. And this is where some of you get into trouble. You only give me 1 or 2 sentences. You really don't back up what you're saying. You have to back it up. Back it up with examples, reasonings, even your feelings. It all counts. But you need to give me material and not blow off this assignment. That's the biggest mistake. So after you put your name and your hour, let's take a look at the directions. You're going to write 3 paragraphs. If I were you, I would write each paragraph under the numbered section for directions. Then, once you are all done, erase the stuff I wrote. Voila! 3 beautiful paragraphs. Does that make sense? So let's take a look at paragraph 1. State whether your hypothesis was supported or not supported. That means you're going to answer your problem or your research question. So at this point, I would go back to that document. Hopefully you've kept them up if you've changed them and improved them as I told you to during the research phase. I would copy that problem/research question and I would paste it. Where would I paste it? Right here. I'd put my cursor at that last sentence of number 1. I'd hit enter. I would hit backspace. I'd hit backspace again. And this is where I would paste my answer. Okay? I'm going to highlight that so you can see it. This is where I would do it. And here's the example of how that's done. So in this highlighted section that I've highlighted, you won't highlight it, but in that highlighted section, you're going to make a claim. That's your hypothesis. Then write the evidence that supports or disproves that hypothesis claim that you made. And lastly, you will state the specific reasoning that explains it. So that's the first part of paragraph 1. Then in paragraph 2, where I've highlighted here, this is where I would paste my answer for the second question of paragraph 1. So still in paragraph 1, here's the second question. Develop defendable explanations for what occurred in your experiment based on patterns, trends, or errors, outliers. If you don't know what this is, look it up. So if you have a plant that didn't grow as fast or like you thought it should have based on your research, then you need to ask yourself why. If you see patterns, whether you agree with them or not, you need to try to defend why those patterns or find an explanation for those patterns or trends. So make sure you do that. Once you're done with paragraph 1, you're going to come up here and you're going to delete everything I wrote. It's not there anymore. Okay? Not there. No longer exists. No longer exists. Okay? I'm taking out all of that. We don't need it. That's my paragraph 1. Paragraph 1 is now done. Okay? And there we go. Paragraph 1. So let's look at paragraph 2. Overall experience. So that's what paragraph 2 is supposed to be about. The questions are, what further study do you recommend based on the results of your experiment? And number 2, can you improve this experiment? And guys, heads up, everybody can improve, period. It's called growth, okay? So what I would do is I would answer this question just like I did before. Answer the question in complete detail. So for question number 2, here's my advice to you. Be open and honest. Judges like that. Also, self-reflection will be a lifelong skill that will move mountains out of your way. Trust me. And just like before, you're going to get rid of everything that I wrote. Getting rid of everything I wrote. Okay, and I'm going to indent. I'm going to bring my sentences together, and doesn't that look nice? Paragraph 3. Paragraph 3 is about your next steps. Were there errors? If there were, please explain them and be very detailed about them. You may have only had one. You may have had several. Number 2, if you were to do this project again, what would you change or add? And guys, it can be one thing, it can be multiple things, but this is the thing. It doesn't count if you don't tell me why. Why would you change or add those things? What is it? Just don't say, yeah, I would change a couple of things because it would have made my experiment better, or it would have made my plants grow taller and stronger. No, you need to be very specific about the different items that you would change and why. What if you wouldn't have changed anything at all? What if your experiment did exactly what you wanted it to, but you would like to see some different results? You'd like to do the experiment again, but say experiment 2.0, the next version. Like, I want to take what I learned from this or what I proved from this, and I'd like to do it again, but tweak this portion of it to see the results, to see what's going to happen. And that's totally cool. You can completely talk about that. Question 3, what problems did you have with your experiment that may have affected or changed the results? So I want you to discuss that and include questions that came up as a result of the lab. So as you did the lab, your experiment, did you have things that came up that made you go, and you kind of were left with more questions than you were with answers? I want you to talk about both of those things if they existed. One of them should have. Okay, paragraph 3, I have talking about my errors and details to judges. If I had an opportunity to press rewind and do this again, I would have done this differently, or I would have added this component, blah, blah, blah. And then for the final third portion of paragraph 3, I believe there were 3 specific factors that affected the results of my experiment. They were da, 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 or you could say, and this is what they caused, etc. What are we going to do? My most favorite part, right? Delete everything that Mrs. Lewis put on here. Delete it, delete it, delete it. Get it off of there, because this is the final thing. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Okay, so now we need to clean it up, right? Because we don't have crazy sentence fracturing here. We should have spaces, and then I have my little indentation. So by the time I see it, okay, by the time I see it, it looks like this. Jane Doe, she's in my 7th hour. Okay, 7th hour. And there are 3 distinct paragraphs that are talking about each of those things that I said each paragraph needed to include and how to include it. And that's what I should see when you're done. And the cool thing is at the end of the day, before we go to science fair, this is what it's going to look like. And then that conclusion that was totally messy is going to look like this. It's going to be horizontal style. You'll have this lovely header that says conclusion, and this is going to be stuck to your board, and the judges are going to read it and go, this person did their homework. And that is true. You did your homework as long as you do everything like I told you to. You're welcome. Now go out, be confident, and get her done.